The traditional graveyards of centuries past were girded by fences of stone, iron, or wood. About the perimeter were smaller gates configured more or less like short, covered walkways, sometimes with small alcoves on either side. These covered passageways were called Lychgates. The term composed of two words, the latter being obvious. The former term, lich, is derived from an older language of the British Isles, a word that means dead body. The Lychgates were used to hold bodies brought from chapels, parlors, or morgues until they could be interred. Sometimes this could be days, and sometimes persons were hired to guard those bodies, crouched in the Lychgate through the night. Let me read a few paragraphs from the rule book here. This is a tale of an age-old challenge, albeit frivolous at its core. The graveyard, the churchyard, or the cemetery are sacred, hallowed ground. Why then persistent and chilling tales of fearful encounters with spirits in the night? Is this not the realm of the dead, and the restless souls that haunt the moldering stones? Mere inches below the rotting leaves and decaying branches are the rotting flesh and decaying raiments of the dear departed. But have they indeed departed entirely? Do not their spirits roam these ruins still? Most of those who have dared enter this domain of death have escaped. With few exceptions, they regaled their comrades with nightmarish tales, told wide-eyed and with gasping, tattered breath. And yet, as people are wont to do, people still dare each other to make the run through the rows of tilting monuments and the uneven furrows of sunken graves. And under those sunken plots, awaiting the arrival of the pale moon, lie in wait the writhing wraiths and groaning ghosts of those who will rise at the slightest disturbance of their dark domain. But now the challenge has been made, to make one's way in harried haste through the misty maze of standing stones and decaying dead. The goal? Escape the cemetery grounds by the Lychgate at the opposite corner before the other contestants. Can you emerge the winner from this terrible task, or will you be denied success by the desperate hindering spirits floating therein from beyond this mortal coil? Now, here before me on the table, I have the components of the game. The board is a representation of that graveyard. We have four corners, which are the Lychgates. In the center of each side, we have the starting points for each of the players. And then these 5 points in the center are where the spirits are spawned. Each player gets a set of 6 cards. I'll explain those in a second. And the distinctive colored peg, which represents their position on the board. It can be played by 2, 3, or 4 players, or you can actually play as teams if you'd like. In addition to the 6 cards that each player gets, there's this big deck of movement cards, which I will also explain in just a minute. Each player selects a colored peg and takes the 6 cards with a matching colored back. The player pegs go on the starting points nearest the player to prepare for the race. Your goal is to reach either of the 2 Lychgates at the furthest corners from your starting point, as shown by the colored arrows here. In addition to the colored pegs for the players, there are 25 white pegs which represent the rising and roaming spirits from beyond the grave. The game begins with 1 white spirit peg on each of the 5 spawn points, as shown here. The 48 white-backed move cards should be well shuffled, then 3 of those cards dealt to each player. This is your hand and should be kept secret from the other players. The rest of the move cards are laid on the table face down to serve as a draw deck. The move cards represent very specific possible peg moves. They're played in a position aligned with the player's edge of the board, and they indicate the move available to that player. These cards allow a move of 1 space in the direction of the arrow. These cards allow a move of 2 spaces in the direction of the arrow. Each player's 6 colored cards should be laid out on the table before them, face up. The arrangement of these cards doesn't really matter, but the symbols and functions of these cards are of 3 types. A. Cards that apply only to your own colored peg. The jump card. Using this card allows you to jump your colored peg over an adjacent peg of any type into the empty space beyond. Normally pegs don't jump and no pieces are ever removed from the board. You can only jump one peg, and the jump must be orthogonal, not diagonal. A knight move. This card allows you to move your colored peg like a chess knight, that is, 1 space diagonal plus 1 space orthogonal. This can be in any direction, must land on an empty space, and may leap over pieces that might be between the start and end spaces. A diagonal move. All moves are normally made orthogonally, but using this card allows you to move your colored peg 1 space diagonally. B. Cards that modify the function of a move card, which can be applied to your colored peg or any white spirit peg. Rotate. This card is used to rotate a move card 90, 180, or 270 degrees when played, and therefore changing the direction of the move or moves shown on the card. 2 times card doubles the move distance of any move card, so a 1 space move card becomes 2, and a 2 space move card becomes 4. C. A card that can be used during another player's turn. The knot card. When another player plays any card, a move card, or one of their color cards, you can immediately play your knot to cancel that action entirely. A canceled move card is discarded and the peg is not moved from where it was at the beginning of the turn. If a colored card was canceled, it is returned to its previous face-up state. The active player's turn continues from that point with their remaining cards. Note, the knot can be used to counteract another knot. So each turn goes like this. First, consider your options. Looking at your cards, evaluate the moves and special options available to you. This includes the 3 move cards in your hand and your unused colored cards that are still face up on the table. 2. Play cards and move pegs. You must play all 3 cards from your hand. Play your cards in any sequence you like, one at a time, moving your colored peg or any spirit peg on the board. These cards will go into the discard pile next to the draw deck. At any time during your turn, you may use one of your face-up colored cards. Here's a very typical turn. Play a move card to move a spirit. Then play another move card to move your own peg. Then play your 3rd move card plus the ×2 card to move another spirit twice the distance shown on the move card. When you use a colored card's effect, turn the card face down. This card's effect is not available when it's face down. Do not discard a colored card. Leave it in place. You must play all 3 move cards from your hand during your turn. Playing one of your colored cards is entirely optional. Did you win? If you've moved your peg to one of the Lychgate corners on the opposite side of the board, you win. Game over. If not, the last part of your turn is to spawn spirits. If any spawn point on the board is empty at this time, place a spirit peg on that spot now. If all 25 spirits have been placed, then skip this step. Number 4, colored card check. If all of your colorback cards are face down at this point, turn them all face up now. They will now all be available to be used again in future turns. And finally, draw a new hand of 3 move cards from the deck, then play passes to the next player leftward, and the game continues. If the draw deck is empty, shuffle the discard and carry on. As soon as any colored peg reaches one of their assigned Lychgates, the game is over and the race has been won. All those spirits on the board are under your control by the power of your own will, and therefore they allow you to hinder your opponents in their race so that you can have a better chance to get to your goal. So move those spirits around to block the opponents. You can't use them to remove any opponents. They can't jump anything, but they're just there to hinder your opponent's efforts. And the more they're used, the more they will spawn more spirits. So the race gets harder as the game goes on because more and more of the spirits are roaming around. Now you may get partway through the race working on a course to the Lychgate and have to change your mind and go in a different direction. Or you may want to set things up so it looks like you're going one direction, but in reality you're going another direction. One common tactic is to play the ×2 or the not card, save a not card for the very last bit so that you can force another player to retract a winning move and then play that 2 times on your next move and slide in there to reach the Lychgate. And now when you play a multiplayer version of the game, you know that the next couple of players around the board are keeping track of that as well. And you can say, well, this player's just about to win, but I know this other guy will stop that player from winning with their not card, and so I can go ahead and play something else. So you're always playing your opponents against each other, as well as playing your own strategy. Also, as with a lot of other similar games, you want to set things up so that you have 2 different ways to win, so that if somebody thwarts one play with a not card, you still have another card that you can play that can achieve the same end or get yourself to an advantageous spot so that you can win the next time around. Now, I've found that this is a great game for kids, and I've timed the release of this video right around Halloween because it's great to play this kind of a themed graveyard game in a dimly lit room with spooky music. Now, in the team play version, where 2 players are attempting to reach the Lychgates, if one player on the team reaches their goal, they can continue to play and move only spirits to help their teammate reach their goal. And then when both teammates reach the goal, they've won. Another thing that's nice about this game is its portability. It fits very nicely into our little zipper travel pouch here so that you can take it along with you, and along with a couple of other games. It's a lot of game in a very small box, and we think you'll enjoy it. Be sure to check the links down in the show notes so that you can find a copy for yourself and see a little bit more information on it. It's a great game to play in a creepy old house or an abandoned institution, or especially in a spooky old graveyard. But wherever you play Lychgates, be sure to play every day. Ha 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 ha.